New Jersey. Well, while he was in the rental car, When Sergeant Ware is not here, I'll tell you about my story. About
I'm ready when you are.
I'm gonna turn the volume down on the phone. I'm gonna start this meeting. We're gonna make sure Kevin doesn't divulge any information that might get him in trouble. I'd like to call the village council meeting to order. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Mike Kramer,
Here.
Steve Baldry,
Here.
Robert Bishop,
Here.
Richard Hamilton,
Here.
Mackenzie Peters,
Here.
Kevin Smith,
Here.
Ann Williams.
Here.
All right, please rise for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everyone should have a copy of the agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Support.
Motion with support to approve the amended agenda. Any further discussion before we vote?
I'm sorry, who supported that? Was that you?
Kevin R.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Support.
We have a motion with support to approve the consent agenda consisting of the approval of minutes for the regular council meeting of April 23rd, 2024, the approval of minutes for the MCAL meeting of May 8th, 2024, the approval of bills for May 9th, 2024 for $6,962.07, the approval of the standard parade route, and the approval of the Little Free Pantry agreement. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Mackenzie Peters,
Aye.
Kevin Smith,
Aye.
Ann Williams,
Aye.
Steve Baldry,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton,
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries. Public comment. Anybody like to speak, please take the podium. Going once, going twice. We have no reserve time. And we have a petition from the Commission on Aging Activity Day. So that would be you, Zoe?
You want me to just?
Yes,
okay.
please.
Sorry, I've never done this before.
It's okay. We'll work with you.
I have flyers to pass out. Do you guys want one?
Sure.
Is that- yeah. Well, it becomes part of the packet, but that's fine, I think. I was gonna say Rhonda would need to have a copy as well. Thank you, though.
Thank you. Sorry.
Thanks.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
So my name is Zoe Zinni, and I'm a 2023 TK grad, and I'm currently a summer intern at Commission on Aging. So I'm here on behalf of Commission on Aging to request the use of the Village Pavilion on June 12th from 1 to 2:30 p.m. The COA staff is looking forward to gathering and socializing with the Middleville area residents. We plan to have flower planting workshop, music, games, ice cream treats that are free to residents over the age of 55. As with all of our events, we obviously encourage anybody of any age to come, but we do suggest a $3 donation for those who are under the age of 55. We hope that this event provides an opportunity for Village of Middleville residents to become more familiar with Commission on Aging and the services we provide. Staff will be on hand to talk about services such as Meals on Wheels, in-home care, and adult day services. Our executive director will also be in attendance to answer any questions about the upcoming millage proposal. It's sure to be a fun afternoon, and we hope to see you all there. Thank you for considering our request.
Everyone's got the event request in their packet. Do we have any comments, questions, concerns?
It's got ice cream. I'm there.
I'll make a
I'm
motion.
old enough to go, so
I'll make a motion to approve the event permit.
We have a motion with support to approve the event permit for the Commission on Aging Activity Day. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Next, we have the Memorial Day Parade.
Yeah.
Mr. Beck?
Hello, Andrew Beck. Pretty standard to what's happened in the past on Memorial Day. Obviously, there's construction, so I know the parade route adjustment would go back to Russell versus Larkin right now. We're on board with that, totally understand. Any real questions about it? Kind of standard, what to expect, parade route, little ceremony here at the bridge, and then ceremony up at the cemetery.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
As always, thanks. It's a great event.
All right.
Mr. President, I would like to make a motion to approve this request.
Support?
We have a motion with support to approve the event permit for the Memorial Day Parade. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Welcome.
Thanks, Andrew.
We have no ordinances and resolutions. We are down to staff reports.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
You've got my report in front of you. Just a couple additions. I sent you a couple emails over the past week. One inviting you, if you're interested in participating in Michigan Infrastructure Champions class or whatever. I think. Oh, anyway, Alec, myself, and Kim have all been through it and graduated. It's a good introduction to infrastructure and the importance of investing in our infrastructure and things like that. It's basically 3 2-hour sessions over 3 months, roughly, right, Alec?
Yeah, and there's
Some testing and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah.
I would say for you, a lot of the 3-hour sessions, a lot of collaboration between other municipalities, and they're all online.
Yep.
So you actually get in groups they try to break you up as much as possible for groups as far as diversity. So you won't be with a bunch of other board members, council members. You would be with maybe a public works director, maybe a city engineer. So it's diverse and you learn a lot from that.
Yep, so if there's any interest in that, just let me know and we'll get you signed up.
Is that during the week or on a weekend?
It's usually during the week, but you can choose which session you want to participate in. I think it's either a morning, afternoon, or maybe an later afternoon. So you can participate in what day session you're in. So, and then also I sent out a reminder for the Berry County Fair if you haven't signed up. Mackenzie asked me to send that out again. So, other than that, any questions for me? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Alec?
Good evening. I think most of you know, last week I missed MCAL due to a water main break on Dearborn Street from some contractors were digging there and they managed to hit an existing water main. Due to that break, I had to issue a boil water notice. Went through the flushing process and testing. And really the main reason I did it is out of abundance of caution. Legally I had to, but I would have done it anyways if it wasn't legal. But it's just because we lost pressure so much in that main. We tested Thursday and then again on Friday, got test results back Saturday. Everything's good, clear. Let all residents know Saturday afternoon that everything was good. So that's fully back up and running as of Saturday. Again, Dearborn Street is moving along. I just got word this morning. It's looking like mid next week, Consumers Gas is going to be in. There's a little delay on this project. The existing gas main is just above the existing culvert. So after doing excavation and inspection on scene, we determined that gas main had to be bored underneath the creek as well. So that delayed the project just a little bit, but Consumers was able to move things along pretty quickly for us, and they'll be boring that next week. So it's really only about a week and a half delay. We realized it early in the project, and we're able to get things moving. I'm still waiting on word confirmation for High Street for start on that project. Right now, staff is just getting everything ready for summer, as we always do. I just want to say a big thank you to Sue Dykstra. She has been helping us for probably about the past 6 or 7 years at least, with flowers downtown. She plants the tulips every year for us, plants all the annuals, and then we just maintain them. So other than that, any questions or comments?
No, thank you for getting that sewer main or the water main break cleared up pretty quickly.
Yeah, residents were back in water by about 4:30 in the afternoon on Wednesday, but then they had to have the boil water notice until Saturday. So
Yeah.
How many people did that hit?
10 homes,
10.
10.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, just the residents from Larkin Street to M37.
Got it.
So 10 homes only. So thankfully, that's all it was. We were able to shut valves quick enough that it didn't affect anybody else.
Nice. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, Sergeant Ware.
Good evening, council. Change up our process here a little bit, so hopefully you guys all had a chance to look at the numbers. Does anybody have any questions about the numbers for the last month? All right. So a couple things we're doing right now. Traffic patrol right now, our main focus, end of the school year stuff is going to be morning, afternoon, school zones. We're receiving an abundance of complaints along the Rolling Oaks neighborhood, Main Street, West Main Street that is, and in the Downs. So our main focus has kind of been in those areas, mostly the high school students driving in excess speeds. Most of those stops you see in our stats are from that alone. Same with the citations. And then also we're still trying to hit the Grand Rapids Street area and the East Main Street area around the cemetery as the Bradford White traffic has continued to not slow down. So we're trying to enforce those issues, try to get people to slow down through the village, make the village safer travel-wise. As far as staff issues, we've got both Deputy Blundell and Deputy Arnold in training for the next 2 weeks, so they'll be absent. The training they're attending is our initial crash accident investigator school. It's a 2-week school. It's part of a 6-week total program. By the time they finish the 6 weeks, they'll be full-blown crash reconstructionists, which is something that we are well overdue for. So that'll be a nice benefit for while they're still up here, especially Deputy Arnold. He's got a whole nother year up here after this year. So the stuff he learns in that class is going to be very, very good for up here. And then last thing that I have is a clarification I'm requesting from you guys as far as how the contract reads for hours that we want covered in the village. The contract currently reads that the typical coverage will be 18 hours each Monday through Friday, 8 hours each Saturday and Sunday. Currently, on average, we are covering, I believe it is approximately 47.4 hours a day if you average out a 2-week period. That's going to be 32 hours, 7 out of the 14 days, and then 20 hours the other 7 out of 14 days. I put a schedule in there so you kind of saw how our schedules overlap. The issue comes into if I'm working on a Friday, but I don't have an afternoon car, that's only my 8 hours. If there's no afternoon car, so we're 10 hours short, what the contract says. If I am not working the weekends and I don't have a car on the weekends, now we're short those 2 8-hour hours we were supposed to have for the Saturday, Sunday. So the question comes down to what is council's vision or idea for posting overtime and covering overtime versus not. Typically, what we've been doing is on Fridays and Saturdays, they're our busiest days. If I don't have an afternoon car, I post 8 hours on those days. So we're still getting 8 hours of coverage in the afternoon into the evening, usually 3 to 11. If I don't post that and it's just me working, there's nobody here after 3 o'clock and the out county just comes up when the calls come in. So you're still getting coverage, you're just not getting that quick response per se. So kind of leaving it to you guys. I don't know if it's something you want to talk about at a later, maybe next month, but just food for thought, at least for tonight, to kind of figure out what your guys' ideas would be for what you actually want coverage versus not if we have to post overtime. If that makes sense.
So this was something we had talked about at our police contract committee meeting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but the understanding, and this again is just food for thought if we want to digest it and revisit it next month, but the busiest time of the week is usually Friday nights and Saturday nights, is what was communicated, just because you
That's
have,
correct.
you know, it's Friday,
It's
Friday
Friday
and
and
Saturday night.
Saturday. Yeah.
Right, so, my view, and I, not to speak for Mike or Kevin, but would be to make sure we have that coverage here in the village.
And it looks like we do generally.
Yeah.
It's just that it's the morning leading into the afternoon, right, where we would just rely on the county.
Yeah, so currently, every other weekend, you're getting daytime coverage. With the
Yep.
daytime deputy spot, that was kind of, the schedule idea was the village would finally have some coverage during the daytime on the weekends, which they haven't had since 1999. So every other weekend, though, you don't have any day coverage specifically for Middleville, the Middleville unit. If I post overtime right now, I'm not mandating anybody. Typically, it gets covered, but there's been a few shifts that have not been covered. And again, most of that is the afternoon.
Is it, I mean, obviously, you're talking about weekend. I'm seeing, could we split maybe a Sunday for a Saturday the following?
Pretty busy too.
Church?
Yeah. Yeah, Sunday mornings are like school mornings. So
Yeah.
you get an influx of traffic and a lot of people coming in and going to restaurants and stuff to have that Sunday brunch. So Sunday mornings can be pretty busy too.
I mean, I guess it would just have to be like where our priorities are. Is it Saturday night where it tends to be a little bit rowdier? Certainly traffic is a concern, but my guess is that Sunday traffic is probably a different model than a Saturday evening.
Yeah, so typically your Saturday calls are going to be if you're getting violent calls, they're typically
Right.
going to be Friday night, Saturday nights, Saturday all day pretty much in the summertime.
And I notice we do always have, I mean, there's always somebody there, but I mean, if you're going to double up,
Well, to kind of give you an example so you kind of understand where I'm coming from. So if you were to take this schedule and you were to take Deputy Blundell and Deputy Arnold and put X's all the way across, they're gone for the next 2 weeks. So this is a 2-week schedule. So on the Saturday, Sunday, you would have Deputy Price here. So you're fulfilling your 8-hour need for that Saturday, Sunday, because he's here for 12 hours. Jump to Monday and Tuesday, you have me here for 8 hours each day. So we're 10 hours short on those 2 days
Right.
for what the contract says is the typical coverage. And granted, this is a different thing because it's a training thing. It's not a standard thing all the time. And then you move to the 31st and the 1st, that Wednesday, Thursday, and you be up to 20 hours. So we're over the 18 hours. And then you jump back to that Friday, you would have me here, so you're under 10 hours. And then that Saturday, Sunday, there would be nobody. So it would be short 16 hours on those 2 days. So right now, how it goes, based on past practice, that Friday, Saturday, where I would be here during the day, but nobody would be here in the afternoon, we would post from 3 o'clock to 11 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to 11 o'clock at night. That's typical. So really, it's more of a clarification on, are you guys good with us continuing that past practice, or would you like the coverage to be balanced out throughout the week more, or would you like more coverage? Because it all comes down to overtime at this point. And it's overtime that the village is paying out instead of regular time when we're doing this extra coverage, because people are off, whether they're sick, vacation, training, whatever the case may be. So it's an added expense because it's overtime.
all right. Again, I mean, just without even contemplating it deeply, seems to me like I would think having 2 officers on a Saturday night make better sense than having them every other Sunday having double coverage during, moving one maybe the morning, picks up in the afternoon, and then I mean, just when I'm out and about at 10 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday headed for brunch, it isn't that, it's not over the top busy, but I do know that during the day, during the afternoon, it certainly picks up. But my only concern would be, and it's not like, again, just statistically, I don't see a lot of numbers on any one particular day, but it seems to me like we would want faster response on a Saturday night versus a Sunday afternoon, a Sunday morning, for instance, right? So just food for thought and something for us to contemplate.
I'd like to hear what the contract committee would have to say on this. It's an item in our team development as a top priority, public safety. Come back and tell us what the costs are going to be for the different options, and let's move on.
It's going to be hard to extrapolate because it's going to be on demand. If there's no coverage, then there's going to
Yeah, and the cost is going to be hard to tell you too, because every deputy's at a different pay scale. So you might get the rookie that's, looking to get every little bit of overtime they can to get a little extra put away for retirement. That's going to be, a lot cheaper versus the 15, 20-year veteran that's doing the same thing to build their FAC. You're going to be spending a lot more for that overtime.
Yeah, well, we could understand what the range is.
I think right now the priority is just determining whether or not we feel that Saturday afternoon coverage or the Sunday morning coverage would be worth overtime. And then changing the language in the contract to allow for that.
Right.
I would think Saturday, especially in the summertime, longer daylight hours, more campfires and that type of thing, you'd want coverage.
So we got some other amendments going with the police contract. If that's the general consensus, we can work that in the next meeting.
What's your preferred option as a person that runs as essentially the chief of police of the village and running the numbers monthly? What's your recommendation?
Honestly, my recommendation is going to be do what we've been doing. It's the Friday and the Saturday night because those are our high call volumes. Those are the times, especially in the summertime, it's when we're dealing with a lot more drunk drivers coming through. We're dealing with people having more domestic issues. We're dealing with more noise complaints because everybody's outside doing stuff versus inside. Sundays, during the day can be busy, but that's also, Sunday mornings, it's the church folk. And it's the folk that, typically aren't out there causing problems or trying to go. The worst it's going to be is arguing over traffic, parking spot or, maybe the little fender bender pulling out of the driveway too fast. Sunday mornings aren't our bad mornings. My suggestion on focus would be, again, that Friday and that Saturday, because those are the more detrimental times for law enforcement to be there in a hurry. If you have the fender bender or the backed up traffic or the little dispute up here on a Sunday morning, chances are I have somebody close by because it's a Sunday morning. Sunday mornings, our guys typically would sit in their cars for the first couple hours and they'll work on stuff. Well, one starts right here in your back parking lot. One starts over by, I can't think of what, Duncan Lake over here.
Lake Church.
Yeah, we have a couple that are just outside of the village that all start within 2 miles of the village.
Yeah.
And during the daytime. And they're sitting in their cars for those first 2 hours. If there's no complaints, catching up on the week's long worth of reports, getting ready for the upcoming week. So you're still going to get a decent response time. It's just not going to be the person necessarily sitting in this office going directly to the call.
Right.
So that's where I think Sundays you're okay if you skip out on Sunday mornings and you focus that time on the Friday, Saturday. And it almost be, to me, I call the Friday, Saturday the weekend in law enforcement because those are our busy days.
Yeah.
Yes, Saturday, Sunday are the weekends, but for us, Friday, Saturday are our busy nights.
So maybe if we have consensus on the board, then maybe just create language that represents what you've already been doing for the contract.
So the board direction would be to continue working on the contract and the issues
Yeah.
with it?
Yeah.
All right. So next police contract meeting, we'll change the language so that it includes verbiage that allows you to post overtime for Friday and Saturday.
Agreed.
Agree.
All right. Any other questions, comments, concerns? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
guys. Thank you, Sergeant Ware.
Next, we have DDA appointment.
Nope, liaison reports.
Oh, no, we'd have liaison reports. Cross that out before we talked about it. So You had a TAPRC meeting?
I did last week. We were finally able to meet. I sent Craig a little synopsis of, and I think I copied you on that, Mike,
Yep.
of the meeting. It was primarily focused on youth sports. I did make a comment at the end of the meeting regarding focus on our capital improvement plan for park renovations, and that discussion needed to be had at the TAPRC board eventually. And then, of course, this past Monday, I received notification that Nathan Fisher is resigning as the program director. And I think that's it for now. And then we have our library committee meeting tomorrow. And then I'm on the personnel committee for TAPRC, so we'll meet with them at some point this week or next to discuss Nathan's role.
Planning Commission?
Yeah, we had a discussion this before MCall or after MCall, and discussion focused on strategic planning, and we all had a consensus that the Planning Commission, as it relates to that strategic planning, would like to focus on safety as it relates to the design of our streets. Many of them don't actually comply with the county or the state, particularly with shoulders, that kind of thing. So we'll be giving you more information later.
It's a slippery slope. You got established neighborhoods with narrow streets, and now you're talking about taking the front yard.
Well, slippery slope if you're driving vehicles down it too. So,
Well, it'll be interesting to see what comes of that.
yeah.
Any other liaison reports?
Mhm.
All right, now we move on to DDA appointment. So I put this back up on here because we talked about the process last week, and I would like to again recommend David Sklarn for appointment to the DDA.
Was it in accordance with the process, that board, did you have discussions with them, and are they okay with his appointment? And
I mean, they're not even legally required to be a part of it. That's what we talked about last week. So while they want to be included in it, I mean, realistically, that's the process. The process is the appointment comes from me. He was interviewed. He is well qualified, and I'd like to see him on the DDA board.
What happened
What do you mean, what happened?
between all the discussion we had on this the last time?
So we
Talked about,
talked about at the MCOW about how that works, how the DDA is different than all of our other boards, and why that process is different, because that is the means of checks and balances. The DDA does not appoint its own board members because it is funded by taxpayer dollars.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how we get along with the DDA. Are we communicating with them and sitting down with them as a representative, you on that DDA board? Steve, you brought it up. You wondered how's come we got this conflict between DDA and us all the time. You brought it up. We talked about it.
I did, but I plan on attending some DDA meetings just for my own education, but not at 8:30 in the morning.
They're not.
I mean, sometimes they schedule some really strange
Those are committee.
Those are
meetings.
committee meetings,
Those are only committee
Okay.
meetings. Yeah. those are-
which
Regular
has
meetings.
come a long way because the committee meetings weren't posted before.
because the
I
next
think
one's
the,
next
I
week.
think the
it's-
objection you had as the president and as your authority rests is that they were not having meetings when you could be there.
Well, when they were appointing people, which wasn't even their responsibility, they were making sure that those appointments were being made when I couldn't attend.
Well, they vote
Was
on,
that deliberate?
they vote on those appointments at their meetings.
I'm not here to say if that was deliberate
They
or
should
not. but-
have at least a conversation.
Well, typically what I've seen to be true is anytime the board has brought us appointment recommendations, and I understand that it's your appointment that you can make, but they just don't meet in a room and discuss it. The whole board has to vote on that appointment, has voted. They don't have to, but they have, yes. They,
No, they don't. That comes from a committee that was
but
formed.
the last few times I recall it being on the DDA agenda, the last couple appointment, not the last ones that Mike had appointed, but before the, yes,
Yes.
the interview board will take it to the whole board votes on it, and then has presented it to us, or Gretchen has presented it to
Correct.
us.
My dad was that way.
Yes,
Yeah,
so,
I wasn't done talking.
yes, sorry,
It's okay.
Richard,
It's just some good stuff.
yeah.
I don't have a problem, Mike, with you making an appointment. I think what we're tuned in on is we got this bumper thing going on with the DDA. And as a 7-member council here, we had this team building thing that we don't want that to happen.
Yeah.
We can easily get along with folks, still make appointments. We don't have to follow their recommendation. They should, if they're going to make one, they should make it and come to this council and make it. Sit out here, should be here tonight. They're not. Why not?
Well, it was a.
Because it's
last-minute
not their
appointment.
responsibility in the first place.
Well, okay, maybe they don't want it then.
No, they.
Well, it was a last minute adjustment.
It can't be
Yeah.
that last minute. We had it come up a
It
month
wasn't-
ago.
It wasn't in
So-
our packet though, for
In-
this week,
Well,
yeah,
I don't control the packet.
right.
So in order to stop all the headbutting and the friction between the DDA and the village council, we need to get people that want to do what the DDA's purpose is. And that's my responsibility, to make sure the right people are in place. The law specifically states those are my appointments to make. So I interviewed David Sklarn. He has a lot of experience with development and regulations. And I felt like while he interviewed for the planning commission, his experience leans more towards DDA. He has worked with other regulatory bodies. His wife does billboards and signs, and they have tons of issues with placement and getting funding for it, leasing it, working with DDAs to get them partially paid for. He has the experience. That's why I chose him for the DDA and not
Yeah,
the planning
I don't
commission.
have anything against David.
And it sounds like
Yeah.
it's just that communication with the board or with that committee, extending that olive branch and saying, hey, I'd really like this appointment. I'd like you guys to do some collaboration and some discussion on it. Since you've already interviewed him, you wouldn't have to be part of the interview. I
So-
understand.
So you
it's-
understand where the problem is? There's a committee that exists to do a job that's not theirs.
Well, they've already made 2 recommendations and those were turned down solely by you, Mike, and I'm not saying it's not your place. I'm definitely not saying that. I'm just saying while the DDA still exists, because, the TIF is sunsetting, if we allow it, we should at least have some collaboration, I don't think your appointment's bad. It sounds like he's a great person. I just would like to see that olive branch saying, hey, can you guys review him? I've already interviewed him. I don't need to be a part of this meeting, but can you just? Yeah.
So continue allowing them to make a process that doesn't exist.
Ultimately, he's
I think,
gonna have to be.
Mr. President-
It's gonna have to be someone who works with them. We don't want to send him over there like maybe we got potential conflict
Okay, so.
in personalities or whatever, I don't know.
Mr. President, if I may, just
Sure.
a couple of comments here. Number one, it's obvious that you have the ability to recommend anybody that you want, which is fine. This board, as a body, has the ability to decline, and you can put that person in front of us every week for the rest of the remaining year. And we have the authority as a body to decline it. And the reality of it is that 2 capable people were removed. And regardless of whatever personal or political agenda from either side, the fact remains is that capable or not, there were 2 very capable, willing, and I might add, volunteers that were participating with the DDA. Now, what the agenda of the DDA is a direct result of the leadership of the DDA. It's not the constituents who are volunteering their time to participate, it's not their job to have a strategic vision for whatever body that exists in the village of Middleville. So the reality is that with all due respect to your appointment, it was heavy-handed, and it came at the expense of losing two people who had a heart to serve the village. Regardless of how qualified somebody is, the DDA, and I've mentioned this 100 times to multiple people, including village staff, there is a limited quantity of opportunities for the DDA to engage at the capacity for which it is actually put in place for. And that is, we lack blighted property. We lack, whether it's above pay grade or whether it's above the capabilities of the people that are participating in the DDA in general, to bring in large-scale developers to convince multi-million-dollar corporations to sell their property or to fill out property that sits vacant in the village. I've done the numbers, and I can tell you bare minimums, just, if we build a pole barn on any of these empty properties, you're looking at a $1 to $2 million investment. I would say whether that's Doug Powers that does that or whether it's Gretchen or whomever, the fact remains is that the capacity for us to do what the DDA is in place to do is limited. And once you run out of those options, the other options are, how do I bring people in the downtown and make it a vibrant space to live? Now, whether that's a community foundation, whether that's the DDA, whether it's the Lions Club, Rotary Club, nobody is commenting on the fact that right now we have a truncated, based on a decision that I don't even recall coming across the board's desk, truncating the band shell usage with bands. The budget was cut. We have the hours of the farmers market that have been reduced. And the fact of the matter is that if you were to rewind 12 months, we had a very vibrant downtown for an extended period of time. Our largest band shell attendance were happening in September, by the way, and we don't have that this year. So decisions, I'm going to just be very frank and candid here. Decisions are being made at the expense of outcome, and it's not being well thought of collectively as a group, whether that's the board here or whether that's the DDA board or all of the volunteers that give of their time that participate at those capacities. So I implore this board, I welcome and encourage whatever candidate you wish to put in place. I recommend personally that we had two capable individuals. I would encourage them to reapply and follow through the same process so that they can be before this board and have the ability for this body as a governing body make the decision collectively so that everybody's involved in the decision. Because regardless of whether it's your candidate or whether it's the DDA's candidate, at some point, someone's got to sit in a room with those folks and have a real conversation that we don't have opportunity for the DDA to be specifically to the letter of the law exactly what they're supposed to be. It's a small community, and I'll tell you, I would horse trade 80 events a year than to have somebody that's economic development in spaces that don't have opportunity to be economically developed because we don't have rundown buildings in the spaces that we have them. Baby Bliss is a perfect example. Did the DDA have anything to do with clearing that land? Did they have planning involved in it? Did they have any dog in the hunt to make that situation happen? That's a DDA function, to bring somebody in and develop that land and go through all of those steps. And I just feel very discouraged that we are sitting here splitting atoms on process when in reality we've got very capable people that really have a heart to serve this community, and I vote for them long before I would vote for somebody that has any level of experience in developing communities or if they have a repertoire of developers and I can look at them and read them and make phone calls to them, there is nothing different between the candidate that you've contributed, or the candidates that were serving this community for multiple years in advance to this decision. So I encourage and support your decision to make recommendations, but we don't have to follow them. And I think at the end of the day, so be it. But in my opinion, I would vote no to a single person making a recommendation than a group of people making that recommendation. And I would encourage the rest of this board to do the same.
Fair enough, but in the time that we've made 2 new appointments, the DDA is offered to start marketing our properties, and they're getting involved in the processes that they should have been.
I would love to
involved
see
from the
that
start.
in writing and in action.
You were here when Gretchen asked to do it, and she's working with Doug to take it over.
Exactly. Working with Doug.
And Gretchen, not the new people.
And I would just say in that, I know that we've given a lot of pressure to Gretchen to perform and work collaboratively with Doug. Doug has mentored her and continues to do so long and far outside of the scope of the people that are part of that DDA board and members that are contributing to that effort. I would say, if anything, Doug deserves a gold medal in that regard. So with regard to the source of those activities, has nothing to do with those candidates, has everything to do with Doug and how he is pressing in on making those things happen. And I've had multiple conversations with them regarding that. And I would encourage this board to pay close attention to the source of those things and make sure that we are supporting everything with data and things that are in writing and actions that are actually happening. So with that, I'm going to back down here now, but I'm very passionate about this because I think we have argued about it for long enough. And I just simply want to move forward and make the choice for Middleville, not for our own personal agendas. And I hope each of us act responsibly in that regard as well.
And Doug does a yeoman's job working with the planning commission to do the job that he does.
So when it's broken, we keep putting the same people on it? That's the plan?
Well, I think it's not because the board is broken. I think their direction is broken.
They have this board, along with that board, lacks strategic vision. We had a collaborative session that actually proved that many of the boards, including the board that sits for the township and the county and the school, we all have the same vision. It was ironic, if at best, that list of things that we choose for our community was shockingly small and focused. And I'm telling you, everybody that sits around in a circle and has these conversations, we all want the same thing. We're all identical in that regard. And I'm telling you, we've got here in the process that has been in place for year over year over year with the same people that have been participating in each of those committees for the most part. I'm just simply saying, it may not have been as broken. It may be just simply the path of least resistance. And I'll tell you, I appreciated it because the farmer's market was packed full of vendors. The band shell had bands all the way up through the end of September. And I'll tell you, we have taken huge steps backwards in that regard. And we're doing it at the peril of the community. And I don't know who's making these decisions because, quite frankly, it isn't the 7 of us collectively. And so I would encourage us to understand that process better and to understand the friction points. I would say add friction that where things don't make sense and remove it when it does. And I'll tell you, if there's more than 5 people gathered underneath that pavilion every single week, then that's success in my book.
So I have a radical thought pivoting with that ability of oversight when we look at our TIF. If we decide to renew the TIF, we should look at, because I know I've told all of you this before, but I spoke with a lot of DDA directors when I was up at the MML conference, and there's more than one way to skin a cat. I've said it before. But if we want village oversight, a lot of DDA directors report directly to the village manager, with the DDA board setting policies and voting on DDA events. So that might be something we should look into if we want further collaboration and appointed direction for that board if we're going to renew a TIF. I'm just going to say that.
As the new guy on the block, so to speak, I make fun of myself for reading charter and master plan and that type of stuff. and I'm still trying to figure out the complete structure of the DDA. When we, again, as the outsider coming in, I've said it before and I'll say it again, you get away from this 3-street radius here, half of Middleville doesn't know what the DDA is or does. And which I think is a shame, because if we look at a lot of things that have been done around here that they directly put their hand on, it's quite amazing. But yet, again, you get away from the river, and everybody goes, who blazes the DDA? I don't know, you know. And what I see so far from my limited time here is it's kind of like a them and us type of situation. And I don't know what them is about yet. I was completely 100% disappointed when we had that joint session that I had to listen to some guy yak for an hour and a half when I was really kind of,
Yeah,
Amen.
communicating, yeah.
and I was really disappointed
Amen.
in the outcome because
Well, and then
I've had people calling me on the phone from the DDA and all this type of stuff, and I barely know who they are, number one. And number two, I'm like, can't we sit together and hash this out? I mean, we all live here, for crying out loud. And as far as this candidate, I think he's great. But at the same time, I wouldn't want to send the redheaded stepchild to go sit on a board that is going to resent him because they didn't have a hand in it. But at the same time, I'm having a hard time seeing where they want to have their hand in it because I don't see nothing coming back from them. Does
Well,
that make any sense?
Yeah, but they had,
It seems to me like it's stuck in neutral in both directions and somebody's got to move the gear shift here.
I think they're deflated. I
yeah,
think that they're deflated, and I feel like there's been a lot of contention and there's, I mean, if I lack a better term, I would just say they're just afraid to
And the-
do their thing.
In my old corporate world, we would not be able to talk about somebody unless they were in the room with us. You
and,
could never talk about somebody who was not in the room. And if that meant we had to get 50 people in the room, that's what we did.
and
And it was amazing what we got worked out doing that. Instead of doing the he said, the she said, what said, no, you're all right here. What did you say? And I think that's something that is lost in this, again, this 3-block radius.
Well, and we had 2 experts come in to talk because
I-
they had a lot to offer.
Yeah,
And
and I'm not-
and they left before the second one started.
well, in fairness, so did some of the village council members, so,
But at the same
Yeah.
time, then can't we have it where we don't have the experts come in and talk and it's just us that talk
Good.
but, yeah, and with that,
at a reasonable time that we could all come?
and with that, you know, when we look at why they don't have a hand in it, they had a hand in it until, you know, it was presented to the board and then it was taken away by one person.
Yes, that is my issue.
They had a
So-
hand in it until somebody read their job description and found out they weren't supposed to be doing it in the first place. So somewhere along the line, they decided to make their own policy against state law and start doing the appointments on their own.
We did not do that.
So with that, I do summarizing all this and hopefully we can move on to the next topic here is I feel the consensus of the board, and if you want to put it to a vote, fine, but we'd like to see the process that we agreed to last week or the week before adhered to in this case, which is have the board have the interview with Sclaren and go from there.
So you want me to upend and change and rewrite state law and have
No,
the DDA have a hand in their own appointments? Is that what we're consenting here? That we need to change the state law and decide that
we're not
a
changing any,
taxpayer-funded
we're not changing
organization
any
should have
state
a hand in
law.
selecting its own individuals?
No, they are not selecting, they still have to get board approval. But like our process that we all voted on, I do think that that should be adhered to.
But
It's not
legally-
against the law.
Legally, the process is that Mike Grate makes a recommendation because he's the chief executive of the
Yes.
village. So he decides on someone that he wants to recommend, and then we vote Because as the principals in a principal-agent relationship, we control the people in the agency.
I understand that.
So he makes a recommendation, we vote on it and place a person there. That's how that works. It's not a question of, so if you add their input, so we bring in candidates, they have an interview, and what do they do with that? They go to Mike and they say, we want this person, this person, and this person. But if he still wants to change the board, he won't want those people if he doesn't feel they can do the job. So it's pointless to have that round of interviews because it can be ignored.
Well, no, you go right back to what Kevin said.
No, it absolutely
The
can
only-
be.
The only time it gets approved is if you got 4-3. I don't care if you got,
Not on their board.
I don't,
No, it's,
this appointment we're talking about
Yeah.
right here.
Yes.
So what are you saying? You're saying we don't have authority to make that appointment?
No, we do.
This
Well,
board
that's what I'm
does.
saying.
Yes, this board has that authority.
That's
We
what I'm
understand.
Their board does not.
our issue is not whether we can or cannot. We understand that. The problem is,
If
the
you,
concern is, and excuse me, but I'm talking. The concern is that we have the collaboration like we do with all the other boards, all the other boards. That's it.
We do not have the same collaboration with the DDA versus all the other boards.
because they are a different entity. It is,
It's respect.
I
It's
agree.
all we're
It
talking
is
about-
100%
No, you will not
respect.
talk over me. Everyone has talked over me. I've been trying to talk. It is respect for letting them know or bringing them in. You are micromanaging them and they are feeling horrible about it. They are feeling bad about it and they don't want to do it anymore. That's all it is. All you need to do is talk to them and collaborate with them. You can still make the appointments, but there's no communication whatsoever. It's what you say and what you do, and then you bring it to us, and that's wrong.
So Kevin understands where the respect was lost. He was fully involved in that process. Respect is earned. So if you're telling me that them not getting respect
Respect is
has
also-
anything to do with them not giving respect, there's a difference in that perspective. And that's why there needs to be change. Now, there's no law saying that the people that are volunteering in this community cannot volunteer in this community. This is not a volunteer board we're appointing people to. This is a downtown development authority. And we have a chair that's telling people that they're required to volunteer. You can't do that.
Well, I think where it sits
Well-
now, no
Sit through a
matter,
DDA meeting.
I think where it sits now, Mr. President.
I'm going to pull this
If-
appointment and that seat's going to sit
if-
vacant.
If
and
you
we're gonna
make that
leave it at
appointment, there's no guarantee that this situation will actually correct itself. I don't know where we're going.
Mr. President, if I may, I think the point here is that regardless of what governing body and what part of the government that the DDA is part of, whether it's different than the planning and zoning or what other boards that exist, the point is that we did take a different approach to the DDA than we have with the other ones. Regardless of how different they are, the point is that they have the opportunity to discuss particular candidates. They get to meet them. They talk with them. If there is an abundance of applicants, which is rare, but in the event that there are, they have the ability to be selective in those candidates and make the decision based on their personal experience. I think that regardless of what you may think about the DDA, good or bad, there's people there that have experience being on the DDA. Now, my point of contention with the DDA is very similar to Mr. Kramer's in the sense that they have not been focused, on a particular topic, which is generating tax revenue. That's the whole purpose and finding opportunities within our community in order to do such a thing. they've also pivoted because of the lack of projects that they could participate in, because you can only kick a horse so many times. There's just simply other avenues that they've contributed, whether it's art on the path, whether it's participating in the pavilion, the band shell, contributing, taxpayer dollars, of which all of us here are very familiar with that. The fact is that when you have a short list of really high priorities that are super important for the village, but the list of economically, and then you have, from a community perspective, a very long list and things that need to get done, they have pivoted to those community engagements. Now, right or wrong, they've been very successful at community engagements. I'm going to quote Mr. Kramer, they're not event planners. That's not their core, that's not the core goal of a DDA. However, for the lack of the other, they have pivoted to community engagement as a means to make sure that people are coming to downtown and making it vibrant and having groups of people use our facilities. They've done a great job of doing that, but that isn't their core. I think this is the challenge when you have a TIF-based DDA that doesn't report to a particular leader who can direct 40 hours a week to that particular task. They're going to take the path of least resistance every single time. It's human nature, and I applaud it because it's paid off in spades with a lot of really great things that have happened in our community. But in this particular case, we can't fix broken by breaking it further and having unilateral decisions that are based on one person's opinion or two people's opinion, and simply usurping power and authority over a body that is generally been volunteering for community engagement. And I don't want them to be community engagement people. I want them to generate tax dollars based on available properties and opportunities within the business district. Unfortunately, that's a limited quantity. So where do we go from here? And I will tell you all day long, we can try to fix this. And I will tell you that Mr. Kramer will keep on doing what Mr. Kramer does until it satisfies his, it scratches whatever itch he's looking to scratch. But at the end of the day, we're not going to always agree with that process because he's very specific and going to the letter of the ordinance and the law that states that he's the CEO of the village. Who can deny that? It's written. But at the same time, when he did exercise his authority, it obviously left a bad taste in everybody's mouth. It doesn't mean that we have to agree with it. It just means that it is what it is, and he is following the protocols that have been given to him in order to make these decisions. I personally don't agree with it as it's been rolled out. I think that we have better options. I think that we might want to consider sunsetting the DDA in its current form and moving them towards a more village oriented employee base where they can be very hyper-focused on planning and zoning and development, and allow for another entity to take the reins and participate in the community engagement. Now, we have plenty of time to work through this. And I don't think that the world's going to burn if they don't have a board member on the board if we're just simply not going to agree with the outcome. But what I would say is a good use of our time is how do we fix the entire system that right now is broken in its current form, stop squabbling about personal opinions of the DDA or the board or whatever. I think we just lay it out and say, what do we like about our current situation? What don't we like about it? I'm a fan of what Mr. Baldry said, and that is we just simply need to sit in a room and figure out what the best course of action is. And if it means snowball, or
Sunsetting.
shelving the appointment, fine. I'm super happy about that. If it means that the outcome is going to be a better system that we can all agree on, and that Gretchen is a very talented young lady. I feel like she needs an avenue where she's not intimidated by coming up with ideas and feeling as if somehow that there are roadblocks into the things that she would like to accomplish. And then I think that we restructure that platform. I think we'll end up with better outcomes. It'll streamline it. We'll remove layers of complexity. And at the end of the day, we will all learn how to get along with each other and cooperate with each other without having to pull the CEO card or the board card or, state law card. I mean, I think those are all important things and we all need to pay close attention to them, but we are a small village and we all have needs and wants, and the DDA was filling those needs and wants, whether or not it was their job or not. So we need to figure that part out. And I think until we do, we're going to have a natural tension as to what their responsibilities truly are and whether they align with what this board actually wants for the village.
Well, I'll make a motion that we approve this guy. If we have a second, we can vote on it and move on.
Support.
Okay. We have a motion with support to approve David Sklarn to the DDA. Any further discussion before we vote?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah, I figured out the right way to ask it. Sorry, I'm a little slow that way, but if this individual was voted down right now, would he be available to be back on the plate at a later date? Or is this a one and done type of thing?
That's up to him.
He could reapply, yes.
He's motivated right now, but that generally falls off the longer you wait. We found that out with village manager candidates.
Look what we ended up with.
Before your time.
You're Craig, you live here, Craig. Don't worry.
Ouch.
Because sorry, to go in reverse sometimes, but if I remember our committee on the whole meeting, it was talked about that you would have to apply for the exact board position, correct? And he's applied for the planning commission by his application here.
Right.
I'm gonna figure out the right way to say it. So,
It's not a valid application for the DDA
Yeah, I
board.
saw that when I read it.
don't put words in my
No.
mouth, that ain't what I'm after.
I thought, how is he getting on the planning commission?
So if he, because I'm really stuck between a rock and a hard place.
We had
I
two
like this
applicants
guy.
for the planning
He-
commission.
He looks good. So, in the happen chance that he was voted down right now, would he be able to reapply for the DDA position
Yes.
If he wanted to.
if he want? I get, yeah. Okay, I got my question answered. Didn't like it, but I got the question. I got the answer.
Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
All right.
Somebody back up for me. Raise your hands for the ayes, please.
Just two.
Okay. Thank you. I'm good.
Reach out to Mr. Sklarn and let him know. All right. Lorimar's not here, so I'm guessing Craig's going to take sheeting checks to state.
Request in front of you is to codify process of sheeting checks to the state, or per state procedure. So what happens is from time to time, we have outstanding checks that have not been cashed for some time, either to residents for water bills that they had credit for, and then they move out of that house and then they're long gone. And we send them a check, but then they don't cash it. And then, so we have to figure out a way to get the funds off of our records. So this would clarify that process and put it in procedure.
Okay, you need a motion?
I do.
So moved.
Support.
Scroll down to where it is.
It's right there.
I see that part, but I'm looking for the attached part.
Oh, it's
So it's just policy, it's not,
correct,
it's not a resolution.
right.
All right, we have a motion with support to approve the policy of sheeting checks to state. Any further discussion before we vote? It's policy. Do we need a roll call? We're not really spending money. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next up is the Financial Administration Policies Amendment, again, in front of you. And then I have a also amended version of page 24 of that policy, because that was not proper in there. So with the 15,000 that you recommended on that page 24, so this would need a motion, if so agreed with the revisions, to approve that.
I'll make a motion to adopt the updated Village of Middleville financial administration policies.
Support.
We have a motion with support to adopt the amended financial administration policies. Any further discussion before we vote?
Yeah, Craig emailed me and provided an explanation for, he clarified what I wanted in there, and I agree with this motion.
Okay.
Now. That's it.
Oh, I agree. It sounded like there was more after the now, but it's just, I agree with it now. Okay.
Right.
All right. Any further discussion beyond that? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and same with the Village Investment Policy Update, second look at that.
Bless you.
Separates the duties of manager
Village
and, right, or is that the last one? Was the last one?
We're on investment policy.
Yes,
update.
investment
Yep.
policy, so would add the,
Separation of the manager and the finance director.
yep. And also add an amendment to that with the investment, or the, yeah,
That.
depositories. Thank you.
Well, that's the next one.
It is.
Both are
This would be,
separate.
this would be, anyway, yeah.
I'll move that we approve the investment policy
Update.
update.
Support. Oh, you gotta have, Ann has it.
Hooray. All right, we have a motion with support to approve Resolution 1304 to adopt an investment policy. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. Rhonda, may I have roll call, please?
Do we need a roll call?
It's a resolution.
No,
No?
doesn't have a number.
It's a policy.
It's
Policy.
policy.
What you have in there is the old resolution.
Oh, so- Then I will.
Yeah, it's not re-
It's not a resolution
It
now.
is not a resolution.
That resolution was just for informational purposes.
Right, that was the old
Yeah.
2013 that was in there.
We have a motion with support to approve the adoption of our policy update for investment. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next up, asked to move to approve High Point Community Bank as an authorized depository on our list of depositories, and actually create a list of depositories. We were looking through, and we're like, we don't actually have a list, even though we do it in practice, we don't have an actual list. So this would add a rider to the investment policy with the actual list of investment depositories. And so Ms. Ayala and I met with folks at Hastings City Bank, and they did provide an updated proposal.
High Point Community Bank.
Excuse me.
It
Thank
hasn't
you.
changed.
It's been Hastings.
I know it has. And
Anyway.
it hurts because they kept the same initials.
Yeah, I know. So, and if council does recommend approving, adding them, we will recommend and plan to transition our checking and savings, other than our savings that we have with Michigan Class, to HCB, so we can have a more local bank and be able to save on mileage and things like that, and more importantly, have a local face with us and an ally with us there too. So, and then even meeting with them, we will be able to even have a few more gains compared to Huntington as well. So,
Mr. President, I'll move that we approve the list of village depositories as added according to the village manager's report.
Support.
I have a motion with support to amend the approved list of village depositories. We're not spending money, but we're moving money.
Well, what you're actually doing is moving to approve that High Point Community Bank as an authorized depository
correct.
on the list.
Add that to the list of the
Mhm.
depositors.
Thank you, Rhonda.
I'm here for you.
So roll call or regular voice vote?
Voice vote's fine.
Feels roll call-ish. All right. All those in favor? Oh, wait, did I ask for any further discussion before we vote, other than mine?
Fine.
All right, now, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Motion passes. Next, we have household hazardous waste event and because it was not on here, the disposal of unused utility property.
Used electronics equipment.
There we go.
So as we transition through our upgrades with our computers, our server, monitors, and all things IT related, we have a pile of used IT equipment sitting up at the DPW garage right now that we'd like to dispose of. The household hazardous waste event happens twice a year. The Berry County group has a grant that they receive from the state in order to dispose of these products without charge. In exchange for that, I'm recommending having our DPW guy that's on call that weekend deliver the stuff to the event and also work the event for 4 hours, help them out. So that would be my recommendation as printed on here.
And just because I know I'm going to be asked this question,
Mhm.
all that equipment with any personal information, all that's been wiped.
Absolutely.
And there's no record of anyone's information on there.
Correct.
Do they certify it once you've turned it in at the
They've got
collection
a,
point?
yes, they've got a deal that, they do all that stuff. Yep.
I'll make a motion to approve the recycling of old IT equipment to the May 18th hazardous waste event.
Support.
Are you going to include in there one public works employee to work the event
Yes, and one public works employee to work the event
for 4 hours?
for
Okay.
4 hours.
Support.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Support. I would like to support this.
And just for additional, they are looking for additional volunteers if anybody so would like to. It happens to be the same day as the Thornapple Kellogg Athletic Boosters Golf event, so I will not be in attendance at the,
Is Rotary doing it again this year?
they are not.
It's also the same weekend as the Cherry Cup, so most of your usual
Right.
volunteers are going to be out of town.
Yes, this
It's this
weekend,
weekend.
yes. Yep.
Support.
We have a motion with more than adequate support to dispose, recycle our used IT equipment and to provide 4 hours of a DPW on-call employee to help with the event. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none, now we're spending money. Roll call, please.
Okay. Kevin Smith,
Oh, aye.
Ian Williams,
Aye.
Steve Baldry,
Aye.
Robert Bishop,
Aye.
Richard Hamilton.
Aye.
Mackenzie Peters.
Aye.
Mike Kramer.
Aye. Motion carries.
Okay, guess that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Craig.
All right, everyone should have draft minutes from the planning commission from May 8th. Minutes from TAPRC meeting on April 17th. The housing commission minutes from March 19th. We are down to public comment.
Sorry, it's not so much public comment, it's just an addition.
Sure.
This is new today. I finally got back in contact with Court Administrator Inez Straub in regards to the ordinance, issue citations for the village and how to handle that moving forward. The discussion involved, instead of setting up staff here and spending the money with staff, which I think would end up requiring an additional staff member in the front office to handle ordinance violations. Instead, they'd be written under state citation with the local ordinance number. That would essentially break down into 1/3 of the cost coming back to the village, 2/3 going to the law library fund, which is similar to how our normal citations work for the county. We still have to work through a lot of essentially red tape with the attorney and the courts and make sure the courts have all of the current ordinances. And with that too, how that was described to me as far as how the payment would go, it wouldn't go off what the ordinance for the village says for cost. They use the recommended range of fines and costs that's been established by the state. And that, for example, let's say it's a handicap, because that's one of the ones that's on here.
Is that 150?
I don't remember what the village doesn't actually have.
No, what the state wants.
The minimum, the range for parking in the handicap spot for the state of Michigan is between 154 and 171 for a first offense. That breaks down at the state level, $124 for the fine, $30 to $47 for the cost, getting you up to that 154 to 171. So they use that range at the county level. So regardless of what the ordinance says, for example, the no parking ordinance for the village is it's $25 for a first offense. They wouldn't necessarily do that 25. They may charge additional based on that, but they'll never charge more. So if the village said it was $150 for a first offense and just the miscellaneous parking is only $100, they're not going to charge more than $100. So it may not always match up with what the ordinance says. So that might be something that needs to be looked at in the future too, as far as a pay scale. And then for parking tickets, that one would still most likely start here with staff collecting those funds. But we could look at the county district court taking those as well. It's just with the parking, it's usually easier to have somebody come directly to the village initially. And if they don't respond to that, then it gets shipped off to district court. So that's what we're working on with that.
Thank you.
Nice update.
Thank you.
So then we would have to look at our general law ordinance and do a sweeping change. Probably wouldn't hurt to have Williams at Works look at it, do a review, and see where the affected ordinances would be. And then it would be similar to what we did with our planning and zoning ordinance. We would go back, redline all the places where we notate a fine, and then cite state reference, and then include a table or a reference to a table in our ordinance so that it can be found easier.
Yep, the one that I sent you out today was for Hastings City. So we could work with the courts and with our attorney to.
Oh, I am all about not reinventing the wheel. If we can steal somebody's ordinance and not pay for it, I'm good with it.
And it gives us some teeth.
Music.
Yeah, I like that. It gives us, we've been talking about it for 2 years now.
20 years.
Yeah, I would say,
At least
I'd say 30.
The four of us have been talking about it for 2 years,
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see we can have some citation with some opportunities with some teeth in it.
Well, it's just empowering
Yeah.
our law enforcement to be
Yeah.
able to do their job. That's the biggest thing.
Yes.
Okay, so that was public comment. Any other public comment? All right, final council comment. Anybody want to start?
I will.
Steve?
I actually enjoyed tonight quite a bit. I would implore, beg, ask, whatever we have to phrase to use. I don't care if we go to my pole barn and have a beer and a cup of coffee type of thing. and I don't know the right terminology to use, a work session maybe, so it's not an open meeting.
It's gotta be
violation.
posted regardless if there's more than 3 of us.
Huh?
Everything's open meeting, there's no interview.
Okay, let's go to my pole barn then.
You have to post the address.
Okay.
Do you have adequate parking?
3? Yeah, I do.
I might need a plug if I'm coming straight from work.
And the 2 residents that show up, it'll be a blast.
Yeah. Okay, my pole, just right across the river. I would love to get in the same room without an agenda with the DDA and us and have a talk. I don't know the right words to use other than that, but what's your beef? Do you have a beef? Who are you? What is it you do? You know, type of a conversation. Where do you want to go? Why aren't you going there? And so on and so forth. Because quite frankly, I know very few people on the I know Eric Schaefer and Kim I know now a little bit, but and Gretchen, but I would really like to see us do that. And I don't know the architecture of how to get it there other than if it has to be off-site type of a thing. My pole barn's big. I can put a lot of people in there, but we have family reunions and stuff in there. So, and then I also have a car lift, so you can take the people that are bad and put them up in the air and don't let them back down.
Would that be a potluck thing? Or?
What's a?
Yeah, and to add to what Steve already said earlier today, and just not have a moderator, just have someone here. You know, I mean.
Have you
Maybe
ever-
Greg can come and moderate.
Did you ever have a conversation with a talking stick?
Yeah.
The person that has the talking stick gets to talk and
Yeah.
everybody else shuts up and listens.
Yeah, but then they throw the talking stick and then it
No.
completely degrades the conversation.
That's a good idea.
But, you know, give you your 5 minutes or whatever. I don't care what it is, but I really think for the good of the village that we live in and for the good of the residents that we represent, that we should do that. And I don't know the architecture of how you make that work. I'm sorry, I don't, but my pole barn's so off, it's off village property and it's up for even, I have a bathroom in it too, so. there you go.
It sounds like it's big enough to be a zoning violation. So I didn't
I got all my sign permits, inspections, everything been done, everything. I have a big enough yard, I think I could probably get a casino permit or something, I don't know. But at any rate, I really would like to see us do that.
Anything else?
No, I'm just looking for some help. How do we make that work?
We can help you out if you choose to do that. We can make it work. So
Let's not do it during either spring or fall sports. Let's shoot for, I don't know, August, when there aren't 5,000 obligations pulling people in so many different directions that we can't get a meeting.
If that's how it has to be,
But then
then so be it.
That
But,
gets all summer of this constant up in the air. I think it needs to be done ASAP. Something needs to happen ASAP.
we're here for you, whatever you need us to do. So
I mean, to be fair, it does have to be a posted meeting because you're going to have, it is a posted meeting because you're going to have a quorum.
You're gonna have 7
So,
elected officials. and
Yes, so it does
7
have to be a
appointed
posted
officials.
meeting. There has to be an agenda. Somebody has to take some kind of notes. It should probably be in this building. But I agree with you that we can, like Craig says, we just have to know what you want and we post it and we do it.
if y'all show up to this thing at the same time, maybe.
Well, that's not exactly, that's an event. That's not a.
There's ice cream now.
Oh, yeah, Berry County Fair.
And ice cream involved with that.
There it is.
There you go.
Calm everybody down.
Okay, so I'm still stuck in first gear. How do I go ahead?
I think we just plan with Craig and I think Rhonda and we can certainly pull a date. I don't disagree. I think we should do it post haste because I think any length of time that goes on just festers the wound more. So I think the village staff can certainly work with us, with the board, and certainly coordinate something and make sure that we have the proper notifications and so on and so forth.
If there's a consensus, we can move forward. And
I mean, if we want consensus on that now, we can always move forward on just getting that worked out. So
Yep, we can work it out.
maybe while we're chatting at the end here, we can just say, I support the village moving forward with that.
You can just do a general consensus here and there, so that
Mhm.
has direction, so that we can direct them and else.
Yeah.
So 1, 2, 3.
Aye.
Okay.
I support.
Support.
Yeah, I mean, Mr. President, if you want to make a formal, then we just simply say, I'll make a motion to move forward with planning a
Well, if
Meeting
staff has
for the-
consensus, I mean, we have 4 people that already said that it's something they want to participate in, so then we'd have to schedule it.
Yeah, you don't really need to vote. You
All right.
can have a general consensus that you want to have a joint meeting with the DDA.
bingo.
Yep.
Done.
We can have it.
Have a cribbage tournament in my pole barn, I don't care, but you know, just everybody show up, say.
You want to have a party, don't you?
I've had many a party in that pole barn, so
That'll be the after celebration.
that pole barn could talk,
So are we good now?
I reckon, yeah.
All right, so Steve's all set. Anybody else want to go?
I'll go. 2 things. I think our ordinance, today we are having these conversations about ordinances and supporting ordinances and so on and so forth. I think that it's clear that anytime that we as a body vote on an ordinance to bring it to bear and bring it to life, there's a process, right? And I don't know if all of us are fully aware of what that process looks like. I know that it was very opaque for me for a very long time. I actually took time to go over it with Mr. Stolzenberg, and it was enlightening on not only the complexity of it, but the expense of it. So if we pick a ordinance, whether that's parking or ORV or whatever the case may be, anytime that we have to write our own tickets on something that we put in effect, that's not just as simple as just saying, I agree on this particular ordinance and these are the guidelines of this particular ordinance. There is an enforcement component, there is a fine component, there is attorney fees component, and frankly, the minute that you get past Bob, who goes through the process, and let's say Bob sees that my grass is 4 inches tall and it needs to be 3, the fact of the matter is that once it gets out of Bob's hands and Bob is like, look, this guy isn't mowing his yard, we call Mark. What's your opinion on that? Billable hours. And he's north of 200 an hour. So we're spending money on what his opinion is on that. Then we come back, and if he gives us his opinion, then we say, okay, well, we want to enforce this ordinance and go to the next level. Then he handles it. So let's just say Bob is no longer giving citations. Now it's Mark sending notifications, cease and desist, or whatever it is. That's billable hours again. So consultation, now he's acting as our prosecuting attorney, and he's sending letters at a billable rate. And if they don't respond to the notifications that Mark sends, then it comes back to us. The village manager then says, I approve for you to prosecute. Then at billable hours, he then engages with the resident who is breaking the ordinance and stating that he's going to go to the county courthouse or whatever and make that happen. Now, if we levy fines, we often will make it the resident's bill to pay for the attorney's fees, which can be anywhere from $1,500 to $3,000. And I will tell you, there's no guarantee that that particular resident will have the ability to pay that fine. So then now Mark becomes our bill collector, and then that comes at an expense. So when we put these ordinances in play, we really have to digest the complexity and how much expense it will come to the village in the event that somebody doesn't want to, if they dig their heels in. And I would encourage each of you to discuss that with Craig and really just digest the process for a minute so that when we are, in some cases, frivolously passing ordinances just because of whatever our gut tells us that needs to happen, we really need to fact check ourselves and say, do we have the ability and the tools in place to be able to enforce it? And I think if we were to back out multiple ordinances and just say, I adopt the county's position on this, then that empowers our deputies to be able to act in alignment with. And then we can erase those fine-grained details out of our ordinance book that we can enforce, and we allow for our law enforcement to do their job with purpose and intent without having to go to the attorney or go to the courthouse to figure out how to enforce it. So I think that there's a lot that we could be discussing, I think, with regard to this issue, and happy to continue that conversation collectively. Outside of that, I'm in. That's it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, the same thought came to my mind when I sat down and read all of those ordinances.
Goodness.
Yeah, goodness,
Bless you.
in between naps. They're pretty extensive. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
I don't have anything.
I would like to say that I enjoy when other people have little brain farts like Craig had, because I still call the grocery store pastors, and people look at me like I'm an idiot, and I will take that in that particular scenario, but I enjoy that.
You talking about spend more? I mean, save more?
I'm glad you enjoy that.
Mr. President.
I call it plums too down in Hastings.
Yes, yeah.
So
Actually, I do have one question if I could be indulged. ORV ordinance. I've been getting a lot of questions. When are we going to be
It's
seeing
coming
that?
back the Doug's regular meeting, which is the 28th, so it's the next meeting, next
Oh, I
regular
see.
council meeting.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. So, yes, we have a lot of ordinances that haven't been reviewed in a long time because there's other pressing business. There's been a lot of great people that have came before us that have put things in place, like our law enforcement agreement, like Parks and Rec, like the DDA. But our terms in office are short, and these are long projects. To see all of the ripple effects that come from putting a board in place 20 years down the road, nobody has that kind of foresight. So that's why it's important for us when we recognize something like this to try and fix it, because the next person's not going to have the knowledge we have, or the person after that. So it is important to put a lot of thought into resolutions when we change our ordinances. And we started that with the planning commission, and then we lost Brian, and we're starting over again with Doug. And we got a really talented individual that will see that through. So I'm glad to hear that Kevin sees that way too. That when we can fix something, we can cite something that allows us to not have to change it every time something changes. We can cite a table that belongs to somebody else so they can pay to change it. It makes things easier. I don't remember what else I had.
Can I add to that real quick? So we just, including Doug, we have an amazing staff here at the village. So from Doug to our planner, our,
Doug is our planner.
I know, finance director, clerk, deputy clerk, DPW director, assistant manager. I just did Alex annual review the other day. Gold stars upon gold stars. He's amazing. Everybody that works for, I shouldn't say for me, with me on my team makes my life super easy when I'm working here. So I appreciate the confidence that you have in me to select my team and to appreciate them how they should be appreciated. So
I'm off the rails. It's 8:30, so it's after. With that, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. Motion will be in order.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Have a motion with support to adjourn. Any further discussion before we vote? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Nay.
Thank you.
So the guest dropped out in the middle of the meeting.
Village Wi-Fi.
I haven't been able to get anything.
And somehow I have Village Corp